So you want to get rid of some units with that fly keyword. And to do that, one of the best options is the Sky Ray Gunship. Now, what are some of the weaknesses and defenses of this gunship? Well, its 10 toughness is the first one. This is average, but it makes it incredibly susceptible to anti-vehicle weapons. And its 3+ save means that you definitely want to keep this in cover. But what does it have for defenses? Well, first, and most importantly, it has 14 wounds, which is more than a Leman Russ or a Gladiator. But I think one of its best defenses is its movement, and where it's going to be sitting on the battlefield to help you. The Sky Ray Gunship is going to sit in your back line, and it's going to spend most of its time in your deployment zone, where its main weapon is going to be firing into vehicles, allowing it to move around your deployment zone to get better shots. And a detachment like Mont Ka, where in the first 3 battle rounds it's going to get the assault keyword, allowing it to advance and shoot, is going to be huge for this so that it can track down other vehicles. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned the fly keyword, and here's why it's so important. One of its 2 abilities is Velocity Tracker. Now, each time the Sky Ray Gunship targets a unit with the fly keyword, it's going to be able to re-roll the hit roll. Most of the time, abilities like this are terrible, but most of the time, those abilities are on flak guns. And the Seeker Missile Rack is about as far from a flak gun as you can get. And you might be thinking, well, what units have the fly keyword? Every Necron vehicle, every Aeldar vehicle, and every Dark Aeldar vehicle. Now, as long as they're not a walker. Unfortunately, the Space Marine vehicles do not have fly. Now, this ability does not specify the Seeker Missile Rack, which means your secondary weapons also get to reroll their hit rolls. And this is excellent, because it also means that those smaller arms fire are going to get to reroll against things like jump packs. This tank thrives fighting Necrons, Aeldar, Dark Aeldar, armies that love flying vehicles. Its second ability is Targeting Array, the same as the Hammerheads, allowing you to reroll 1 hit roll or 1 wound roll. This has the ability to reroll hits against flying vehicles. Its best use is probably rerolling the wound against the one-shot Seeker Missile that this has. Not to be confused with the Seeker Missile Rack. So let's look at the Seeker Missile Rack, its primary weapon. It is the same profile as the Seeker Missile on every other Tau vehicle. The difference is, it's not one-shot, in fact, it's twin-linked, which makes this even more deadly against anything that can fly, because not only can you reroll the hit roll, you can re-roll the wound roll. It does only have 3 shots, but because of this, if you pick the right target, you're almost guaranteed, with a strength of 14, to be wounding that target. And its D6 +1 damage, though swingy, can be devastating to whatever it hits. What about its secondary weapons? And it's got 3 options. The Smart Missile System, which has indirect fire, the Twin Pulse Carbine, which has assault and twin-linked, and the Accelerator Burst Cannon, which has AP compared to the other one and is a strength of 6. The Accelerator Burst Cannon tends to be the one to go with. It's got a higher strength, it has an AP, and if you're shooting anything with a jump pack, this is going to be the best way to get wounds through on those units. In my videos, I talk about support units that go well with whatever I'm talking about. In the case of the Sky Ray Gunship, it is the support vehicle, because it has marker lights, meaning that it's going to be able to remove cover from the spotted unit. That means that the Sky Ray Gunship is going to be especially good at finishing off targets. Would I put the Sky Ray Gunship in reserves? And to answer that, I'm also going to talk about the Hammerhead, because in the Hammerhead video, I did not discuss reinforcements. The Hammerhead and the Sky Ray Gunship are both outclassed in the Tau for things you could put in reserves by Vespid and any battlesuit. For the Hammerhead with a railgun, I'm not putting this in reserves. You want it firing every turn. The only time I would put it in reserves is if I had 2, but if I have 2, I want them both firing every turn anyways, so not going in the reserves. The Ion Cannon, that is probably the best one I'd put in reserves out of the 3. It could easily help clear an objective where it needs to. And the Sky Ray Gunship is not the worst thing to put in reserves, especially as I've mentioned with Necrons, Aeldar, Dark Aeldar. Could be very helpful, but the odds are they're not going to put any of their big vehicles into reserves. So you want this thing to be able to threaten them every turn, along with any other vehicle. That's all I have to say about the Sky Ray Gunship. I hope this has been helpful, and if you have any suggestions for future units, let me hear them down below.